Imagine two wars simultaneously unfolding in Europe, one brutal and visible, the other lurking in the shadows. Of course, you know about the fierce clashes between Ukraine and Russia, with artillery explosions echoing and drones buzzing ominously overhead. But what if I told you that an extraordinary battle is waged not on the front lines, but in the hearts and homes of ordinary people? This is the story of an underground resistance, where everyday citizens have donned the mantle of saboteurs, taking on the audacious mission of dismantling Russian advancement from the inside. As you delve deeper into the shadow war, you'll discover it's not just a handful of brave souls attempting small acts of defiance. No, this is a vast network of covert operatives, woven together by a singular purpose, to execute sabotage that would thwart Russia's invasive plans entirely. Only a few know that on October 11, 2025, a remarkable operation unfolded, orchestrated by Ukrainian partisans who managed to infiltrate the Russian military's ranks. Picture this: agents embedded within Russia's 82nd Motor Rifle Regiment, living among Russian soldiers, blending in seamlessly. Their presence, imperceptible at first glance, allowed them to relay critical intelligence about artillery placements and troop movements back to Ukrainian command. Their efforts led to preemptive strikes that halted a Russian offensive before it could even begin. The group executing this intricate operation was known as HA, which translates to Fire in Crimean Tatar. This dynamic cell consists not just of Ukrainians, but also of ethnic minorities and non-Russian individuals from occupied territories, each bringing their own story to this collective resistance. The inception of this movement coincided with the outbreak of war itself, and by 2025, members had infiltrated various segments of the Russian armed forces. But how do these operatives function in such perilous environments? Insights from Sasha, a member of Ukraine's Special Operations Forces, reveal an elaborate training regimen designed to prepare participants for the risks ahead. Candidates are meticulously selected and go through intensive training, learning how to assess dangers, disguise their intentions, and remain inconspicuous within the local populace. These agents, deeply patriotic and resolute, undergo not just physical but also psychological preparation. They are taught to create false identities, sometimes joining local administration or even managing pro-Russian websites as covers for their true mission. Their families remain in the dark, ensuring that operational security is unbreached. In case of exposure or impending danger, evacuations are meticulously planned. The scope of their missions is astonishing. Unlike larger resistance movements, many of their operations lean towards undermining Russian authority within the occupied territories. However, this often involves striking directly at military resources, sabotaging supply lines, damaging equipment, and fostering unrest against the occupiers. One particularly daring mission in late November 2023 saw Ukrainian saboteurs plant explosives on a Russian freight train laden with diesel and jet fuel, deep within Siberia. Time was of the essence, and the blast occurred inside a lengthy tunnel, not just destroying the train but dismantling a vital rail link between Russia and China, a main supply route for military materials. This act alone inflicted significant damage on Russia's operational capabilities, hindering their logistics for months. As this covert war intensifies, with operatives extending their reach across various fronts, a chilling question lingers: how deep does the upheaval run within the Russian military and its supply networks? The answer may shock you. The resistance thrives on the very underbelly of this conflict, challenging the enemy's every move, and its echoes reach far beyond what anyone expected. The stakes are immeasurable, and the battle rages on, with each new strike rekindling hope in a war-torn nation longing for freedom. In the shadow of the ongoing conflict in Europe, two wars surge simultaneously: the visible clash of arms between Ukraine and Russia and a covert war fought by ordinary citizens turned extraordinary operatives. As artillery booms and drones whir overhead, a different kind of battle unfolds deep within enemy lines, driven by an unyielding spirit of resistance. Imagine this: everyday individuals morphing into enigmatic saboteurs, working tirelessly to undermine an invading force from within. These brave souls form a clandestine network, commonly known as HA, meaning Fire in Crimean Tatar, a group that symbolizes defiance and resilience. Originating with the onset of the invasion, this collective has strategically embedded itself within various factions of the Russian military, quietly dismantling its operations from the inside. Sasha, a member of Ukraine's Special Operations Forces, shared an astonishing revelation in a candid interview. His team meticulously identifies potential operatives in strategically significant regions, particularly those occupied by Russian forces. But who are these infiltrators? They aren't just driven by patriotism,
they undergo rigorous training to blend seamlessly into their environment and to avoid attention.
From secure locations away from the front lines, they learn to navigate risks and develop behavioral plans that sometimes necessitate aligning with local authorities or even managing pro-Russian fronts. Their operational security is impenetrable. Families remain in the dark unless two relatives are enlisted together. This intricate web means that should operatives be discovered, meticulously crafted evacuation plans are waiting to whisk them and their families away to safety. The stakes are astronomical, and the breadth of their missions is staggering. These operatives are not merely seeking small victories, they are engaged in large-scale sabotage endeavors designed to disrupt the infrastructure supporting the Russian war machine. One remarkable incident highlights their daring strategies. On October 11, 2025, operatives shielded by the guise of camaraderie struck hard at the Russian military's core, thwarting a planned offensive before it could even begin.
With stealth and precision, they provided intelligence enabling Ukrainian forces to execute preemptive strikes that shattered enemy plans. But as success led to audacious schemes, how far would these resistance fighters go to cripple the machinery of war? What if they could hit supply lines hundreds of miles away, shattering vital routes used by the enemy?
Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the labyrinth of clandestine operations, where each act of sabotage echoes across the battlefield, striking fear into the hearts of the invaders. This is a war not just for territory, but for the spirit of a nation. In the depths of occupied lands, where shadows cloak the brave, agents' secrets remain locked away. Families stay in the dark, unaware of their loved ones' hidden battles, unless siblings share the same covert path. And if danger looms, swift evacuation awaits. Ukraine's shield protecting those who dare to defy.
What if a single, unassuming villager could ignite a firestorm of rebellion from within?
Feel the gritty dust underfoot as whispers of dissent grow louder. Agents slip into administrative roles, sowing seeds of discontent. Smoldering frustration brews among locals, turning the taste of imposed authority sour. Yet, these covert warriors dodge outright clashes, focusing on unraveling the occupiers' grip through cunning maneuvers. Unlike wild guerrilla factions, they target the enemy's civilian facade, crumbling support from inside.
But can resolve alone shatter empires?
No, these operatives demand unshakable mental fortitude. The SSO selects those who grasp the isolating weight of their burden, ramifications echoing like distant thunder.
Results? Astonishing.
Missions evolve from mere scouting to ingenious disruptions, launching strategic blows far behind enemy lines.
Accelerating the pace, SSO tactics shift subtly. Recalling that fateful October 11th ambush, a bombshell emerged. Even in Russia's elite ranks, traitors lurk, lured by generous payouts. Imagine the enemy's own soldiers betraying their cause for coin. How does Ukraine turn foes into allies? This betrayal underscores widespread sympathy, leaking into the Russian military core. Pay enough, and conscripted Ukrainians or minority troops flip sides.
Remarkably, support is so pervasive it has infiltrated the invader's heart, and if you offer fair compensation, even officers defect stealthily. Zokar, a 20-year-old attach coordinator, spills the truth. Agents sprawl across occupied Ukraine and Russian cities, posters fluttering on Siberian poles beckoning recruits. They've burrowed into defense plants and units, feeding precise intel for devastating strikes.
The ripple of successes? Deafening. By 2025, infiltration shards the enemy's every tier. What's next in this web of deception? Will a single defector spark total collapse?
Trains, slow and lumbering beasts of metal, chug along rigid schedules, predictable, vulnerable, far less nimble than tanks or trucks on the ground.
Russia's desperate revival of armored trains for supply runs?
It screams how crippling these sabotage blows have struck their war machine, bleeding them dry economically and strategically.
Ever wondered how a nation shatters an enemy's core defenses from within, without firing a single frontline shot?
Imagine Ukraine sneaking hundreds of unmanned assailants deep into Russia's heart, unleashing chaos on fortified airfields thousands of miles away.
That's Operation Spiderweb, orchestrated by Ukraine's elite SBU security service, not grassroots resistors, but a masterstroke flipping sabotage on its head.
Picture it, ordinary trucks, tucked away in Russia's vast expanse, concealing 170 drones like silent predators. These weren't random hauls, carefully ferried to 5 key airbases across the frozen landscapes. The farthest, Belaya Air Base in eastern Siberia, a staggering 2,670 miles from Ukraine's borders, from the thunderous boom of battle.
There, under smoky skies and bitter winds, the drones awoke, guided by invisible networks, diving as kamikaze ghosts into Russia's ironclad fortresses. Screaming metal ruptured as blasts tore through prized targets, strategic bombers roaring no more. The Tu-95 and Tu-22M3, relics of a fading empire, priceless and irreplaceable.
41 of these behemoths crumpled, wings twisted, fires raging, slashing nearly a third of Russia's nuclear bomber fleet. Feel the acrid stench of burnt fuel, the guttural roar of explosions echoing across icy plains, the humiliation of a superpower left exposed, its skies vulnerable like never before. How does a battered Ukraine pull off such a sting, coordinating across a continent, stealth so absolute that alarms barely wailed? The costs? A jaw-dropping twist in war's ruthless ledger. Spiderweb's price stays shrouded, but glimpse Ukraine's prior drone barrages, cheap assailants, worth mere hundreds of thousands, obliterating aircraft empires, billions erased in flaming value. Every detonation echoes like a taunt. Russia's titans reduced to scrap by nimble upstarts. And it didn't end there. Those fire-forged partisans, struck alongside, eyes burning with patriotic fury. Twist of the knife? Simultaneous railway sabotage on the Volnovakha-Mariupol line, a vein pumping lifeblood into occupied lands, skirting the crucial Kerch Bridge. Explosives nestled amid rattling tracks, detonating under a hail of sparks and crumbling earth. Supplies strangled, bridges of movement shattered, forcing Russia to reroute through dust-choked detours, their grip loosening in a ballet of disruption. The terrain heaved with deafening cracks, odors of cordite mixing with diesel fumes, rails warping under unseen hands. Yet, as embers glow and shadows deepen, one wonders, with Russia scrambling to plug these leaks, will the next strike unearth even darker secrets buried in enemy ranks? And what if partisans turn the tables on Moscow's own elite conspirators? The web tightens, but who truly owns the threads? Building on the shadow wars raging across Europe, from overt battles with artillery and jets like F-16s and Mirage 2000s, to the hidden sabotage tearing Russia's lines apart from within, Ukraine's partisan networks exploit deep infiltrations, striking far beyond the front lines. Have you ever imagined a hidden war where every bite of food could spell doom, and every shadow hides a betrayer? That's the chilling reality crippling Russian forces today. Ukraine's resistance didn't stop at those railway blows near Volnovakha and Mariupol, tying up vital supply lines that skirt the Crimean Bridge. No, their techniques expanded into an orchestrated mayhem, a powerful combination of massive long-range hits and old-school disruptions. By scattering devastation across Russia's wide expanses, they drained the enemy's economy and war machine bit by bit. The ripple effects? Profound and terrifying for Russian troops, who now live in constant dread. Every Ukrainian they meet might be a saboteur armed with intelligence, poisoning soldiers' meals, wiring cars to explode mid-drive, or reporting troop positions for devastating airstrikes. Picture the paranoia, that mechanic fixing your tank could be relaying exact locations, letting missiles rain down on entire regiments. The scent of fear permeates their camps' sweat-soaked uniforms, the sickly taste of distrust in every ration. And it's real. In November 2023, 26 soldiers fell ill from tainted food, with 5 dying in a single strike. As a Russian conscript, how could you trust the local baker's fresh bread or the roadside vendor's treats? Guerrilla tactics like these breed deep-seated mistrust, humiliating high command who send men to needless slaughter. Curiously, even amidst defiance, cracks show among the ranks. This shadows extends to Russian units themselves, where bribes turn comrades into informants, feeding Ukraine's reach into distant lands. But imagine the ultimate twist. These operations aren't fraying nerves alone, they aim to shatter morale so thoroughly that soldiers despise the fight entirely. What unseen foe lurks next, ready to strike from your own shadows? Imagine a battlefield where warfare unfolds not only on the front lines but also in the shadows. Shockingly, in Eastern Europe right now, 2 wars are raging. You've likely heard about the intense conflict between Ukraine and Russia, marked by relentless artillery and aerial assaults. But lurking beneath the surface is another type of war, one of stealth and cunning, where ordinary civilians morph into extraordinary saboteurs, launching a relentless campaign against their enemy from within. This shadowy war is spearheaded by a clandestine network of resistance fighters, determined to destabilize Russian advances. They are not merely volunteering, they have woven a complex web of insurgent activities and strategic infiltration, venturing into the heart of enemy territory. Their primary mission? conduct covert sabotage operations that shatter the stability of Russian forces, stripping them of the momentum needed to sustain their aggression. Back in October 2025, this covert movement revealed its potential when Ukrainian partisans carefully infiltrated the Russian military, embedding themselves as ordinary soldiers within a key regiment. Equipped with critical intelligence gathered from deep inside enemy camps, they pinpointed artillery positions and troop concentrations. This strategic gathering of information unleashed preemptive strikes that dismantled Russian plans, thwarting an impending offensive before it could take form. Known as HA, this resistance group, whose name means fire in Crimean Tatar, was formed in response to Russia's ongoing military aggression. By 2025, they had seamlessly integrated into various segments of the Russian army, making invaluable contributions to Ukraine's defense efforts. The true orchestrators of these undercover missions? Ukraine's military intelligence, tirelessly vetting and training individuals willing to take great personal risks for the sake of their nation's freedom. Each operative undergoes rigorous training, learning to camouflage their true intentions while blending in with local populations. The stakes are high, and family members are kept in the dark about their covert activities. If discovered, a rigorous evacuation strategy is enacted, ensuring the safety of the operatives and their loved ones. While the resistance fighters typically undertake civilian roles, their missions may turn violent, aimed at dismantling Russian structures and military supply lines. And their success? Beyond anyone's expectations. Operations have evolved from mere reconnaissance to large-scale sabotage, with Ukrainian resistance infiltrating deep into Russian-held territories. But there's a shocking twist. Even in the heart of the Russian military, some turn against their own. Discontent simmers among Russian soldiers, leading to increasing refusals to participate in a war they do not support. Each soldier reassigned to hunt down saboteurs is one less soldier contributing to the war against Ukraine, shifting the balance of power ever so slightly. As the Ukrainian resistance continues to execute successful operations like blowing up vital transport links, Russia's attempts to clamp down only bolster the resolve of partisans. Reports indicate that entire platoons are vanishing, unwilling to press on into yet another doomed mission, reflecting a stirring shift in morale. The ripple effects of each sabotage turn small victories into a wave of momentum, undermining Russia's ability to sustain its offensive. Every train that fails to deliver ammunition, every fuel depot reduced to smoldering ash, contributes to a growing sense of vulnerability within Russian ranks. As internal strife and terror tactics in rogue villages further hollow out their defenses, Ukraine's shadow war progresses quietly yet powerfully. But will this battle of wills yield the ultimate victory? Each strategic decision taken in the dark leads to monumental impacts on the battlefield, raising critical questions about the resilience and resolve of both sides in this unprecedented conflict. The game is afoot, and the stakes have never been higher. Can the people fighting in the shadows tip the scales of war in favor of their homeland, or will the relentless pursuit of the enemy snuff out their flickering flame of resistance? In our last part, we uncovered the hidden toll of Russia's shadow war in Ukraine. Every soldier ordered to hunt partisans is one less bombarding frontline trenches. Each checkpoint delaying supplies tips the scales for Ukrainian defenders. And those commanders obsessing over internal threats? They're stealing time from plotting vicious offensives. Did you ever wonder how a nation, invaded and battered, turns invisible blades against its oppressor? Imagine the scent of salty Crimean air on the eve of takeover, the eerie silence of soldiers slipping through unguarded gates, the thud of boots claiming buildings without a shot fired. This underground defiance didn't erupt overnight. It simmered for 8 relentless years since 2014, when Russia seized Crimea with sly maneuvers, aiming to absorb Ukraine into its iron grip. Ukrainians, eyewitnesses to the occupation's cruelty, spent those years forging intricate blueprints for retaliation. Home field tactics honed to perfection, ready to unleash when the full assault roared in February 2022. Picture ordinary lives upended after 2015. In Crimea, civilians smelled the smoke of fear, tasted the bitterness of betrayal. They didn't dream of defiance then. But soon, covert cells sprouted like stubborn weeds, spreading whispers of rebellion across Ukraine. The land grew prickly, inhospitable to invaders, prepared for the storm both sides knew was brewing. Why did Russia's grand invasion sputter on day one? Flashback to Crimea's eerie takeover, a velvet glove over steel fists. Paratroopers parachuting into Sebastopol airport felt the breeze as they stormed, seizing desks and halls without spilling blood. Putin toyed with repeating it, targeting Kyiv's Borispil airport, decapitating the government in one paranoid strike. But Ukrainians knew the script by heart. In those 8 years, they'd deciphered Russia's ruthless playbook. Crisis averted in eerie calm.
Government intact. The nation rallied, surging with fury.
Those resistance webs, woven since 2014, became the bedrock of this phantom war, crumbling Russia's lines from the dark heart of occupied soil. Now, as we dive deeper, prepare for a twist that humbles the invaders, Ukrainians infiltrating their own ranks, turning Russia's might against itself.
What if the enemy within isn't a myth?
Stay tuned, because the next blow will shatter more than steel.
But Ukraine's shadow war didn't stop there.
Building on those early resistance networks from 2014 to 2022, and the failure of Russia's initial assault attempt, a deeper, darker battle was brewing. It shaped the foundation for this hidden front, crippling Russia's lines from within.
Now, imagine the shocking twist: could ordinary people, hiding in plain sight, be the real architects of Russia's crumbling empire? As losses mount and desperation grows, reveal this unexpected shift: what if Russia's own soldiers are secretly Ukraine's allies? Feel the tension thicken with every whispered betrayal. Can you hear the distant rumble of sabotage trains slowing to a crawl? Smell the acrid smoke from disrupted factories, stinging the air in occupied lands? The Ukrainian resistance has mastered recruitment beyond borders, creating channels that swell with rapid infiltration into Russia's ranks.
These networks, honed over years, build on lessons from the Donbass conflict, trial and error refining training that scales effortlessly across new territories. Picture Eastern Ukrainians slipping into enemy lines like shadows, their palms sweaty with risk, voices low to blend in. Intelligence webs, once dormant, now pulse with life, unveiling secrets that pressure Russia's fragile core. But here's the gut punch: Russia hemorrhages talent faster than it can replace. By May 2025, over 1 million fighting personnel lost.
Hearts race as families grieve the permanent scars.
More than 5,000 officers gone, with a 10th senior, majors and above, including a dozen generals.
Why?
Each loss erodes a network of years-long expertise, unfillable without fresh souls. And that million-strong void stains the military forever.
Imagine conscription dragging in the desperate or the disloyal, some itching for revenge, others lured by Ukrainian calls. Questions linger: how does a nation fight without its fighters? Twist: Russia's economy, once vast, warps into a tunnel of obsession. 2025's military budget? A staggering 40% of government spending. Over 7% of GDP, echoing Cold War nightmares.
Yet the military-industrial complex crumbles, exports vanishing after the war's second year.
No more global arms deals to fund dreams. Now, feel the weight: economic oppression choking air, smells of unpaid bills and empty shelves. Resources drained for one endless conflict. Conflicts amplify, railway failures strand equipment, costing lives and lines.
Opponent humiliated by invisibility, Ukraine strikes where Russia least expects.
Shock question: is this the end of an empire's march? Each sabotage echoes farther, bricks of resistance crumbling walls. Mysteries deepen: who among Russians whispers for pay?
But urgency builds as losses pile up, Russia's frontline fracturing under unseen hands.
What secrets will the next strike unveil?
That colossal military budget, devouring 40% of government spending and exceeding 7% of Russia's GDP, it's a throwback to Cold War tonnage. Yet, their industrial machine, a rusted giant, lies in ruins.
Exports vanished after the war's second year. Can you imagine the iron grip of starvation tightening around Russia's war efforts?
Everything they forge, tanks glistening like forgotten jewels, ammunition stockpiles humming with dormant power, all trapped within their borders.
No sales to generate funds. No global markets softening the blow. And when the railways, those steel arteries pulsing with freight, suddenly fall silent? What then?
The equipment grinds to a halt in guarded depots, vulnerable whispers of metal on concrete echoing in empty warehouses. The acrid tang of stagnant engine oil fills the air, a tangible reminder of wasted potential. Ukrainian resistance groups, shadows slipping through cracks, have grown fearless. Long-range strikes rain down like vengeful storms, targeting these stockpiles before they roar to life. The resistance swells, a living, breathing force, destined to unleash chaos with every ticking second. Russia's resources bleed out, siphoned dry by Western sanctions and the gaping wounds of human loss. Analysts whisper, it could take years, long, agonizing years, to refill those coffers.
Desperate maneuvers only widen the gaps, granting Ukraine's infiltrators more time. More windows to crawl through. More opportunities to dismantle from the inside out.
But here's the jaw-dropping revelation, the real shocker buried in the shadows. As Russia's desperation peaks, fueled by a million vanished soldiers and crumbling leadership, the resistance has infiltrated deeper than anyone dared dream. Even within the Kremlin's inner sanctum, double agents lurk in plain sight. One such figure, a high-ranking advisor with access to nuclear codes, feeds Ukraine real-time data, turning Russia's own weapons against its empire.
The final twist? In a move of poetic justice, the very place Putin once perfected in Crimea, now boomerang mercilessly. The government decapitation he craved for Kiev? A phantom.
His own downfall accelerates, engineered by ghosts he never saw coming. Russia's full invasion crumbled in hours on February 24, 2022. Because of this unbreakable network forged since 2014. Now, as the front line fractures, the shadow war ensures no swift victories. Just endless attrition, until empire crumbles. Stay tuned, as we unveil Ukraine's drone revolution, flipping the scales of asymmetric war before your eyes. Ariamenti. Imagine slipping into the heart of enemy territory, where shadows whisper secrets and every step echoes with danger.
What if one clever move could cripple an entire network, leaving foes scrambling in the dark? Recapping the tension from before, a daring operative vanished into the night after igniting chaos around a heavy vehicle on the front lines.
Then, months later in June, agents disrupted a key power hub in Russia's Kaliningrad region, plunging military sites into blackout and racking up $5 million in setbacks. Now, picture this, the operative carefully drained vital fluids from the main transformer, then sparked a fierce inferno that rippled through nearby facilities, shaking their foundations. Smoke billowed thick and acrid, the air heavy with the sharp tang of scorched metal, forcing hasty retreats amid flickering shadows.
But the strikes kept coming, bolder each time. Fast forward to October 2025.
A lone partisan targeted a vital rail line, deep in Russia's Chuvashia Republic, nearly 600 miles from Ukraine's edge. That's like the stretch from Washington, D.C., to Miami, endless highways of risk, yet Ukraine's influence pierced that far.
Why this line?
It funneled Shahed strike drones, those Shahed buzzing menaces, from the Yelabuga factory straight to battle zones.
Destroying it? A masterstroke, severing the flow of threats before they could swarm the skies.
These hits on infrastructure, they pulse at the core of Ukraine's strategy.
Rail lines and factories?
They're the beating heart of Russia's push, pumping supplies like blood through veins.
Without them, all those numbers mean nothing, troops stranded, machines idle. Rhetorically, can you feel the frustration building? How do you fight an invisible force unraveling your plans from afar?
In 2023 alone, groups in the Zaporizhia area pulled off 10 precise rail disruptions, each one a thorn, slowing the advance to a crawl.
Russia's response? Desperation in steel.
They dusted off Soviet-era armored trains for supply hauls, hulking beasts mixing passenger cars, cargo holds, and mounted defenses like autocannons, or anti-air setups on fighting vehicle frames.
These iron giants even packed recon tools and quick-fix gear for busted tracks.
Hear the rhythmic clatter of wheels on rails, smell the oily grit of engines straining through the night, yet why did such trains fade after the Cold War?
Simple, they're rigid behemoths, locked to fixed paths, no dodging or weaving like nimble tanks or trucks. Schedules?
Predictable as clockwork, prime for ambush.
Russia rolling these out openly? It screams vulnerability. Ukrainian ingenuity had slashed their logistics so deep, the war's engine sputtered, strategy in tatters. But wait, what if the web spun even wider, ensnaring the unthinkable next? Even the enemy's elite ranks hide willing traders, ready to turn for the right price.
Zokar, that young attach coordinator in his 20s, reveals the movement's vast reach, agents embedded everywhere from occupied Ukraine to far-off Russian cities and even Siberia, where posters call recruits from power poles. Now, picture the shadow army creeping deeper, slipping into Russia's defense factories and military units like ghosts in the machine.
What do they deliver? Precise intelligence, fueling Ukraine's pinpoint strikes and humiliating Russia's mighty defenses. The stories of their daring hits?
staggering in number, each one a blow that rips at the heart of invasion. Imagine the cold Siberian night, late November 2023, as undercover saboteurs attach explosives to a Russian freight train. The air hums with diesel fumes and the rumble of wheels. It carries vital jet fuel and diesel, stretching over 3,000 miles from Ukraine's border. They timed the blast perfectly inside the 9-mile Severom Whiskey Tunnel, carving through icy mountains.
Boom, the explosion echoes like thunder in the dark void. But this isn't just fiery destruction, the tunnel collapses, a gray rubble heap blocking Russia's lifeline. Why? Exposed tracks get fixed fast, but this choke point, a decade-long engineering marvel, is Russia's crucial rail to China, hauling munitions and weapons that fuel the endless aggression. Repair? Months, maybe years of choking dust and steel groans, stalling the war's gears. How does Russia feel such a sting from so far? It's sabotage that mocks their defenses, turning distance into weakness. Twist on that cold rage into April 2025. A pro-Ukrainian mole infiltrates Russia's central military district's ranks, eyeing a tank on the Avdiivka front. Mechanics are toasting with vodka, laughter slurring their focus amid the sharp tang of engine oil and metal. The agent strikes, flames erupt, metal screams as armor melts in the crackling blaze. Unseen, they vanish, leaving chaos and the acrid smoke of defeat. Is this just sabotage, or payback that leaves Russians scrambling, their hardware humiliated? Then, June 2025 ramps up the shock. Another agent slithers into Kaliningrad, targeting a vital electrical substation. With coolant drained from humming transformers, they ignite the blaze, flames roar, smoke billows with a burned wire stench, cutting power to military sites for $5 million in damage. The crackle of shortcuts disrupts factories, soldiers groping in sudden darkness. Can Ukraine truly reach into Russia's own home turf, flipping switches on their war? And what enemy secrets crumble next? Even the elite of the enemy army are ready to switch sides if the payoff is right. According to Zoker, a 20-year-old attaché coordinator, the movement's agents stretch far beyond occupied Ukraine, into cities and regions across Russia, with daring recruitment posters stapled to telegraph poles even in distant Siberia. That's the depth of this hidden rebellion. But how deeply have they infiltrated? And what shocking blows have they struck far from the front line? The movement's spies have slipped into Russian defense industry plants and military units alike, handing over detailed intelligence for pinpoint Ukrainian strikes. It's chilling how far their reach goes. Imagine operatives in the heart of Siberia, whispering secrets that shatter defenses thousands of miles away. The sheer number of brutal incidents by these Ukrainian resistance cells is staggering, each one a masterstroke in a war fought in the shadows. Picture this stormy night in late November 2023. Ukrainian saboteurs placed silent explosives on a Russian freight train loaded with diesel and jet fuel, over 3,000 miles from the Ukrainian border. The air was thick with the stink of oil and anticipation. Timing the blast perfectly inside the 9-mile-long Severom Whiskey Tunnel, slicing through Siberia's rugged mountains. Why target the tunnel? Well, exposed railways can be repaired quickly, new tracks laid, new trains rumbling through in weeks. But this tunnel? It was a lifeline linking Russia to China, one of the key suppliers of munitions and weapons fueling the invasion. It took decades to carve out that monstrous passage. One of the world's longest. Blowing it apart caused devastation that lingers, preventing Russia from using those rails for months or years until rubble is cleared and the structure stabilized for steady traffic. The echo of the explosion must have roared through those icy peaks, a seismic humiliation for the aggressors. Did they ever see that coming? And who's next in line to feel this underground fury? Then came April 2025. A pro-Ukrainian partisan, hidden within Russia's central military group, launched a daring sabotage on the Donetsk front, setting a Russian tank ablaze. The ground trembled under the weight of armored plates being bolted on, the tang of metal and fuel hanging heavy in the air. He struck just as mechanics drank carelessly, their laughter masking his approach. Flames erupted, engulfing the machine in a hissing inferno of smoke and crackling heat. Destroys the tank completely, and he vanished into the shadows, undetected. Could Russia's own ranks betray them so easily? The taste of victory for Ukraine, the bitterness of defeat for the invaders. A few short months later, in June, undercover agents hit an electrical substation in Kaliningrad, Russia. They drained coolant from the power transformer, the metallic chill seeping into the night, then ignited the blaze, causing over $5 million in damage.
Electricity flickered out to military production sites, plunging the area into pitch-black silence. Nearby installations crumpled under the heat and sparks, a devastating blow to Russia's war machine. Was this the shockwave that exposed their vulnerabilities? How far would Ukraine push to dismantle the giant? And in October 2025, another underground hero, a partisan, raided a railway track nearly 600 miles inside Russia's Chuvashia Republic. That's like the span from Washington, D.C., to Miami. This vital line ferried Shahid strike drones from a distant factory to the front lines. The railbed groaned under sabotage, halting the drone shipments cold. Did the traitors within sleep well after this? Or are Russia's defenses crumbling faster than they can rebuild? One question haunts, with leaks in their own army, how long until the whole empire fractures? Stay tuned for the next twist in this relentless shadow war. Imagine the shadows of war stretching deeper than the front lines. Can you fathom ordinary folks turning into unseen warriors? That's the hidden battle in Ukraine, where saboteurs strike at Russia's core, infiltrating armies and dismantling supplies from within. From preventing Russian offensives to wreaking havoc miles away, their courage twists the tide. But how far does their reach truly go? In the heart-pounding aftermath of a blaze that crippled a key outpost, agents moved with chilling precision. They drained vital coolant from transformers, then ignited a fire that plunged Kaliningrad's military hub into darkness. The cost? $5 million in ruins, and a blackout that silenced production sites, unleashing chaos on nearby defenses. Picture the shock rippling through Russia's veins. Is it possible for one strike to echo across nations? Far from Ukraine's borders, in the Chuvashia Republic, a daring partisan shattered a lifeline. Nearly 600 miles away, that's the distance from Washington to Miami, a railway groaned under sabotage. This artery pumped Shahid strike drones from distant factories straight to the deployment zones. The agent's blow targeted not just cargo, but the very veins of supply, starving the front lines of firepower. Feel the grit in the air, the metallic tang of derailed dreams. Ukrainian movements zoom in on these choke points, railways and factories, the pulsing heart of Russia's war machine. Each railway raid denies Moscow its tidal wave of troops, funneling numerical might away from the fray. In 2023 alone, guerrillas in the Zaporizhia region unleashed 10 flawless blows against tracks, sparking delays that sowed desperation among the invaders. Russia fights back with ghosts from the past. They've resurrected Soviet-era armored trains for supply hauls, hulking beasts packed with troops, cargo, and fury. Imagine autocannons roaring, integrated fighting vehicles rattling, anti-aircraft guns piercing the sky. These trains scout every shadow, carry repair kits for tracks laid bare. Yet, they're lumbering giants, trapped on rails, less agile than tanks or wheels. A bitter twist, schedules exposed, targets ripe. By dusting off these relics, Russia reveals a humiliating wound, admitted that Ukrainian sabotage has bled their strategy dry. Such cancers can't heal easily, showing how far the resistance has pushed them to the brink. And the pinnacle? A web-weaving operation that smuggled hundreds of drones, threading through defenses to weave unprecedented disruption.